Good afternoon. I'd like to take up a couple of minutes of your time to talk about fascism. Now, fascism is one of those words which everybody uses or understands or think they understand, but when you ask them what it means, very few people can actually come up with a coherent definition. And this has caused a lot of chaos when people talk about politicians. I mean, was Franco, during the Franco-Civil War, was he a fascist? Was Hitler a fascist? Is Putin a fascist? Was Trump a fascist? Is your dad a fascist? We can easily have gut reactions to this question, but when it comes down to actually working out the criteria, the definition, which would enable us to say whether something's a fascist or not, then it actually gets rather complicated. And there are many schools of thought and conflicting experts. Now, this isn't a new problem at all. I mean, George Orwell, who wrote 1984, in 1944 wrote an article just before the end of the war, when we were actually meant to be fighting fascism, lamenting the fact that nobody seems to be able to come up with a definition of fascism, and we would probably have to wait a long time before anybody could crack the conundrum and offer one. Well, here it is. This is the book that George Orwell was waiting for. May he rest in peace, because he's not around to enjoy this book anymore. And I have written it after many years of studying fascism and reading fascists and reading what other people think about fascism. And I think I've written a pretty good overview of use to students and journalists and politicians and even fascists. And if you want to know a bit about the history of the term and a history of interwar fascism and how to spot fascism in the post-war era, and whether you can work out whether Brexit is fascist or the AfD in Germany is fascist, etc., then maybe this is the book for you. It's pretty accessible, it's pretty cheap, and I think it's really something to spend a couple of hours on if you have anything to do with fascism or think you might have actually encountered one of them. Now, I'd better stop before some neighbour tells me to stop making so much noise in my own garden, and I have to protect myself from some bloomin' fascist. Good afternoon, and have a nice fascism-free life.